Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome our distinguished speaker, CA Karthik Shastri, and everyone in today's knowledge sharing session of Visionary Woman, where we will be look at 360-degree approach to handling CIT appeals. Visionary Woman, founded by a CA Crispy Morakia, is created to support and empower women professionals. The idea is to provide them with remote work opportunity and specialized projects that help them grow in their careers. This platform is also space for women professionals to learn from each other, share knowledge, build leadership skill, and find mentorship. We know women professionals face unique challenges, and through this initiative, we want to give them right support, guidance, networking opportunity to succeed with the confidence. I would also like to make ma'am. Over to Megvi ma'am.
All right, Neha, thank you. With that, I would like to give you all a brief about our speaker for the day. CA Karthik is a young chartered accountant based out of Bangalore, qualified in the year 2021 with professional expertise in the field of direct taxation. He offers comprehensive tax services to a diverse clientele, including individuals, corporates, firms, charitable trusts, and MNCs. Besides being a CA, he's also pursuing his CS professional and CMA final and has secured AIR 24 in CS executive exam conducted by ICSI. Karthik's professional career commenced at Dhruva Advisors in 2021, where he gained valuable experience in corporate tax advisory, litigation support services, and client representation before various appellate authorities. Driven by an entrepreneurial spirit, he established his own practice, R. Karthik and Company, in the year 22. His firm specializes in guiding clients across a wide array of industries through tax compliance, litigation, and advisory services. Furthermore, he is enrolled as a member of Direct Tax Committee at KSCAA for the year 24-25 and 25-26. Following his passion in teaching, he is also enrolled as visiting faculty at PES University Bangalore. Besides, he is a regular speaker at ICAI Bangalore and also conducted various workshops at KSCAA. Over to you, Karthik, sir.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for the wonderful introduction and welcome all the participants. I will share my screen. I will want somebody from the team to confirm if the screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Is it
Yes,
visible?
sir. Your screen is visible now.
Okay, thank you. I'll take it over from you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope we all had good lunch. Now it is the time to have some knowledge update, right? So I'll just take 2-3 minutes to make you all understand the preface with which this particular session is being conducted. We all are aware that the profession, the CA profession as we call, is not the same like how it used to be 10 years ago. We used to be a very compliance driven profession wherein we used to handle ends of income tax returns or GST returns or VAT returns before GST, sales tax, central excise. Basically, we were a very compliance heavy profession wherein we had to file a lot of returns, get refunds for our clients, so on and so forth. Of late, we have seen that the profession is shifting, the gears have been changed. Now the profession is looking at a profession where consulting and litigation angle is being given more importance. I'm just, when I qualified in 2021 also, we were facing at a COVID pandemic wherein the profession was changing its gear right then. And after the invention of all these technology, wherein, we started having meetings on Zoom, Gmeet and everything, knowledge sharing also has become very much important. I don't think these many number of knowledge sharing sessions were happening 5-6 years ago, like how it is happening today. So I think an appreciation to Visionary Women as well for organizing such wonderful workshops and an opportunity for myself as well to share knowledge whatever I have gained over the past few years. And while we speak about changing gears in profession from compliance driven to advisory or litigation, inside litigation also we have been seeing a lot of changes. When we were doing articleship in the past decade, we used to see our principals, appearing before income tax officers or commissioners physically in income tax department. I still remember we used to, give him a list of all the cases that were due for submission on a particular date, and he used to take all those files together, and then he was visiting the offices of the income tax officers and, explaining the cases. But after we have the introduction of the National Faceless Assessment Center and the Appeal Center, that we are seeing change of gears within litigation as well. Gone are the days when you had a good hold on income tax officers and you were just going and getting things done by just, your influence, or maybe with, how you speak with the officers, etc. We are seeing those days where drafting good submissions, giving good responses to all the notices, relying on good judicial precedents, these things have got more of importance in the last 2 3 years per se. So, having such a huge importance with respect to drafting and filing submissions, it is important for us to learn what are the things that we have to take care and how do we approach this particular appeal. Of course, a lot of us will be handling assessments. A lot of professionals are having a lot of expertise while it comes to assessment. But in my experience, what I've observed is even within the profession, we are hardly seeing, very few professionals who are getting expertise in handling appeals. First appeal is still fine. Second appeal before the tribunal, we are again seeing much lesser professionals who are engaging. So my urge to everybody who is attending this particular workshop is that as the profession is growing, I would like everybody to just go with the flow and adopt yourself to latest, developments happening in the profession. And litigation is one such, aspect which is growing. We also saw a good amount of development happening in GST as well. As we speak now, we've seen just 2 days back we saw the first judgment of the GST Appellate Tribunal. So I think litigation is something that everybody needs to consider as a profession. Coming to today's session, we've given just 1 hour time to discuss CIT appeals. So I think for the first 45 to 50 minutes, we'll just discuss whatever I've prepared. And then at the end, for the last 10 to 15 minutes, we can take up some questions if any. And I hope the Q&A box is enabled so that the participants can put up their questions over there.
Yes,
Right.
it is enabled.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So, what is the agenda for today's discussion? We'll first discuss who are the authorities before whom you can file the first appeal, and which are the orders that you can file appeal before the commissioner, and what are the action points after you receive an assessment order. What is the action point? What are the things that you have to take care? What are the things that you have to observe? And what are the things that you have to do? Those three things we'll see there. And finally, the entire procedure of handling CIT appeals, right from filing Form 35 till we receive the final appeal order, what is the entire procedure is what we are going to observe in this particular session. Okay, first and foremost, very simple. Who are the authorities before whom you can file first appeal in income tax? It is, of course, the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals who has been given the authority to hear appeals under Section 246A is the section which gives the power to Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals to hear the cases from the appealable orders. I think 3 years ago, because of the huge, backlog of appeals that are pending before CIT, the authority is being delegated to joint commissioners as well. 246 used to be a deputy commissioner of appeals before, but after the authority was shifted to commissioner appeals, 246 had become a redundant section. So now they have revived this section by giving the authority to joint commissioner of income tax appeals as well to hear the cases from appealable orders. So how do we bifurcate which order goes to CIT, which order goes to Joint Commissioner? There are two office memorandums or the orders that we say. So these two orders numbers I have just pointed in the slide. So these are the orders from which you can identify your appeal, whether it goes to Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals or Joint Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. Of course, you don't have to worry while filing Form 35. You don't have to choose whether you should file before CIT or JCIT. you will have to merely file Form 35. The allocation inside the system is left to the NFAC. So the NFAC, depending on the quantum of the appeal, quantum of the demand, and the cases involved, the type of case involved, the NFAC automatically allocates whether the appeal should be heard by CIT or the appeal should be heard by JCIT. You don't have to worry about that. Okay. Now, coming to appealable orders. Why do we say appealable orders under 246A? Because any order or a direction that you receive in income tax is not appealable. Only those orders that are listed in 246A. 246A is the section for enabling provision for filing appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax. So there are n number of orders listed in 246A. If your order falls in any of those orders is when you can file appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax. Suppose your order doesn't fall in any of those list of appealable orders, there is no enabling provision in the income tax for filing appeal. Suppose, just to give an example, you filed for a lower deduction certificate before the tax officer, and the tax officer, after verifying the documents, has rejected the application for low reduction certificate. Since there is no enabling provision in 246A for filing an appeal against such rejection, you cannot file it before the commissioner. The only option left for you could be to file a writ petition before the High Court. So what point I wanted to just make out here is only those orders which are listed in 246A are called appealable orders, and only those orders can be appealed against before the Commissioner of Income Tax. So just to give an example, so whatever intimation that we receive under 143(1) after the processing of returns that we file, that is appealable. Intimation under 200A, 206CB, this pertains to intimation of a TDS return or a TCS return. Assessment order under 143(3) is a typical assessment order after the scrutiny is over. Here, you just need to make a point that if the assessment is completed pursuant to a direction of DRP or a TPO, then such appeal is not, that the such order is not appealable before the CIT appeal. So the first appeal for those orders will lie before the income tax tribunal directly and not before the commissioner. The rationale behind this is very simple. DRP also is a commissioner. So order of a commissioner cannot be appealed before another commissioner. Therefore, you need to find a higher authority. The higher authority is, of course, the income tax tribunal. So under 143.3, we have an offshoot section, which is a best judgment assessment. If in case the assessee is not responding to notices or the the documents that are produced are not sufficient for framing an assessment, the AO will form an assessment based on his best judgment under 144. So such orders are also appealable before the CIT. Order under section 147, this is typically your reassessment order. This is the most trending assessment section right now in the litigation space. So any order pursuant to assessment proceeding under 147 is also appealable before the commissioner. Order under 154 or 155 is a rectification order. Before the amendment long ago, the section mentioned that only in cases where the refund is denied or the assessment is enhanced, you can file appeal. But now, even if whatever relief you have sought, if it is not provided by the AO in 154 order, even such orders can be appealable before the commissioner. And 201 order is typically the TDS demand. So whatever TDS proceedings that happen in the TAN jurisdiction, so after the assessment is over under TDS jurisdiction, the AO will pass a order under section 201 that is also appealable before the commissioner. And at the end, penalty orders pursuant to procedures laid down in 274. Any penalty order, if you want to appeal before the commissioner, you can file appeal before the commissioner. Okay, these are the example. This is not exhaustive list. For the exhaustive list, you may have to look into the section itself. Under 246A, there's a huge list of orders that you can file appeal against. If your order is not listed in any of those one, you cannot file appeal before the CIT appeals. And the same provision is applicable for 246 as well. 246 is basically an offshoot of 246A. So the same set of orders can be appealed before the Joint Commissioner of Appeals also. Right. So now we'll come to the actual procedure. Suppose you receive an assessment order for your client. What is the first action point that you need to take care? Firstly, you have to read the assessment order thoroughly. By thoroughly, I mean to say that mere, reading on a bird's eye level or just reading it once may not be sufficient. As also, you may have to read it twice or thrice to understand whether all the points on which you have provided the submission is properly considered by the AO or not. And assessment order will also mean all the contents of the order, including the PAN of the assessee, the name of the assessee, address of the assessee, dates on which the hearings happened, the date of the assessment order, date on which the officer has digitally signed the order. Everything will have to be read thoroughly. Everything will have to be observed thoroughly. And in case you find any mistakes in the order, which could either be on facts or on law. Suppose I'll give you an example as to how to bifurcate legal and factual. Suppose there is a procedure in the law which the AO has not followed. You have asked for a virtual hearing. The AO has not given virtual hearing, or it could be anything. So all those issues are legal issues that you have to identify in the assessment order. On facts, suppose you have produced some document, the AO has not considered that particular document, or whatever explanation that you have given is not considered by the AO, or even after considering, the AO has another opinion. So all these will become factual errors in the assessment order. So you have to identify both factual errors and legal errors. Legal errors, not just in the assessment order, you have to see if there is any legal error in the entire assessment itself. To give a typical example, I just, what comes to my mind is, suppose you have filed a return, you have received a 147 148 notice, pursuant to which you have filed a true and correct income tax return in response to 148 notice. Now the assessment has to happen in accordance with section 147 read with 143 2. So what will the AO do after receiving the return under 148? AO is duty bound to issue a 143 2 notice. Thereafter, the AO is supposed to complete the assessment under 147. Suppose the AO has missed out on issuing this 143 2 notice, that will become a legal lapse in the assessment proceeding itself. So that could also become one of the grounds of appeal that you have to file before the CIT appeal. So legal issues could either be in the assessment order, the way in which the assessment is being completed in the order, or it could be in the entire assessment proceeding itself, which can be challenged before the Commissioner of Income Tax. So all these, there were two, three burning issues that were prevailing, especially in the reassessment space. We had a jurisdictional AO versus FAO. All these issues are more or less resolved in the retrospective amendments made in the latest budget. Although we could say that there could be a challenge of the retrospective amendment itself, whether such amendment is constitutionally valid or not. That is something that we have to wait and see. But as of now, most of the Roka bathroom is also overruled. The JOFA is also overruled. So many such legal issues are overruled. So when you're identifying such legal issues, I would suggest that you also go through the legal, proceedings and the consequential amendments made in the law as well, as to see whether there is any retrospective amendment in the act also. So both facts and law are to be seen in the assessment order. Third point is, you have to check if all the additions that are made in the assessment order were proposed in the show cause notice. Under 144B, we have a strict and no mandatory requirement by the NFAC that every addition that you propose to make should be proposed in the show cause notice. If such proposal is not made in the show cause notice, the AO cannot make any addition. Suppose you have received a show cause notice, pursuant to which you have provided some response. Now the AO finds out something else and adds that matter B in the assessment order. That is not valid. The AO will have to again issue one more show cause notice proposing such addition of matter B, and then proceed to completion of the assessment. In case the AO proceeds to complete the assessment without issuing a show cause notice for the proposed adjustment, then such hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Karthik. It just went for a second. Now we
Okay,
can.
sure. Thank you. Just give me a minute. Yeah, sorry. So one more checkpoint is, you have to see if all the additions that are made in the assessment order were initially proposed in the show cause notice or not. If there is no proposal, then you can make a challenge as a legal ground to say that these additions were not proposed in the show cause notice. Therefore, the AO cannot make assessment on such additions. Next point is, after analyzing all your issues, you receive the order, you thoroughly analyze the order, identify factual and legal issues, And then you have to start drafting the appeal memorandum. So appeal memorandum will typically include one is statement of facts, and the second one is grounds of appeal. There is a form that is Form 35, but now I think Form 35 is an online form. 2018 or something, they made it on the law changed to mandatory filing of Form 35 in electronic form. Before, we had a provision of filing it before the jurisdictional CIT on a manual basis. But from 2018, we have to file the form electronically. You have to verify the form. All those things we'll see in the next slide. So Form 35 is typically the appeal memorandum. Along with that, you have to prepare one is statement of facts and grounds of appeal. These two things will deal in detail in the upcoming slides. Before filing Form 35, you have to also pay challan, which is the appeal fees. While paying appeal fees, you have to make sure that the appeal fees is paid under the head other receipts, which is a 500 code. And even under the other receipts, you have to mention it under the others tab and not under the tax tab. We have seen a lot of defect notices, especially when it comes to tribunal appeal, not seen in CIT appeal. But I think it's better we mention the amount in the others tab rather than putting it in the tax slab, so that the challan is complete in all respects. Okay. So now we'll look at the entire procedure as to how we have to file this particular appeal. Like I said, it has to be filed in Form 35 and it has to be filed electronically. Now there is no manual submission of Form 35 because now the appeal is typically made to the faceless appeal center. It is not made to the jurisdictional CIT. Although we have only two cases where it is filed before the jurisdictional CIT. One is when it comes to international circle, and the other one is the central circle. So these two circles are, even now it is jurisdictional, but even under those categories also, yeah, the form filing of Form 35 still happens electronically. So once you file the form electronically, the form goes to the jurisdictional CIT of international tax or central circle, as the case may be. Okay, so Form 35 will have to be filed electronically. It's a very, very simple form. It is simpler than an income tax return. You just need to mention few basic things like the assessment order, the date on which the order was served, the amount of addition, the total amount that you have reported, the total of amount of assessment, what is the difference, how much are you disputing, what is the demand that you're disputing. So these basic details are the ones that need to be filled in Form 35. Before, we used to have a separate schedule where we could upload as many documents as possible. There was a separate schedule for attachments, but now in the amended Form 35, they have included these attachments as a part of each schedule itself. Suppose we are entering statement of facts. Against that statement of facts, you will have a small box to upload any document that will have that will be the statement of facts. Now we don't have option to enclose as many documents as possible. Only against a particular item, if any supporting document needs to be enclosed, you can enclose in the corresponding tab. So when do you have to file Form 35? It should be filed within 30 days. Here the wording used is 30 days. So it is meant in strict terms. It is not 1 month. It is 30 days from the date on which the order appealed against is served, not issued. So suppose the order is dated 25th of March, but it is served to you on 1st April. 30 days will be counted from 1st of April on which the order is served, and not on the date on which the order is issued, or the date which is mentioned in the order also. So it should be filed within 30 days. Unlike ITAT appeal, now the amended provision says you can file within 2 months from the end of the month in which the CIT order is served. I don't know why they have not made corresponding change here. The provision still says within 30 days from the date on which the order is served. So what happens if you don't file within time? Of course, you have the option to file condonation of delay. You have to enclose a separate petition for condonation of delay. Now the form is amended in such a way that once you enter the date on which the order is served, and it will automatically read the date on which the appeal is filed, it will automatically tell you how many days of delay is there. Accordingly, you can file a petition for condonation of delay. If you don't file continuation of delay application, the appeal will become defective and you will receive a defective notice. And while you are filing condonation of delay, due care should be given for explaining delay, which means you have to explain every single day of delay. If you had to file appeal before 14th of February, and if you're filing on 17th of February, you have to explain as to why there is a delay of these 3 days, and to explain why you were not able to file on these 3 particular days. And if if you are able to provide sufficient cause for that, I believe CIT has been more than considerate in condoning delays up to maybe 20-25 days. We have seen that the CIT is not uh, deep diving into reasons. It is just giving as a matter of interest of justice. But beyond that, maybe beyond a month or so, you may have to give a detailed reason as to why it was not filed within time. And CIT appeal form, which is Form 35, will have to be e-verified, electronically verified. And who has to verify will be in line with Section 140, which is who has to file the return, who is authorized to verify an income tax return for that assessee. That person itself will be eligible for verifying the form of Form 35. One advice I would say that you have to fill the form with utmost diligence, because this is the form, it is not there merely for formality. All the further procedures, all the further formalities will be done based on what data you give in Form 35. So please file with diligence, utmost care. All the amounts, including disputed amounts, amounts not disputed, amount of demand that you're disputing, all those things should be clearly mentioned in Form 35. And if you receive any defective notice, the notice itself will mention that within so much time you have to rectify these defects. Before such time, you have to file your response. Otherwise, there are high chances that the appeal gets cancelled and you will not get any relief further that. Right. What are the documents that you have to enclose? Typically, these two documents are mandatory. One is the order appealed against and the demand notice. These two documents are mandatory to be enclosed. Now unfortunately, we don't have a separate, tab for enclosing grounds of appeal as a separate document or a separate attachment. Now we have to mention each of those grounds inside the form itself, and we should also mention the corresponding disputed amounts against each of those grounds inside the form itself. Unfortunately, we don't have a option to enclose it as a separate attachment. But when it comes to statement of facts, we do have option for filing it as a separate attachment. So in the in the mandatory tab, you can just mention that the statement of facts is enclosed separately as a document or a separate attachment, and then you can probably attach with a detailed PDF file or a file. Okay. And wherever there is condonation of delay, I would suggest that you also use an affidavit, a notarized affidavit, to mention the reasons of such delay. Sorry, I think
Uh, just a minute, Karthik.
yeah, yeah, sure.
I think Webs, can you please mute
Vaibhav,
yourself?
Vaibhav, please mute yourself. I'll call him. Wait.
I can't
Uh,
mute myself.
okay. Thank you, Karthik. You may
How to mute
continue.
Yeah,
myself?
yeah. So wherever there is a
Don't touch it.
condonation of delay, along with the formal application, I would suggest we also enclose an affidavit stating these are the reasons for which, due to which the appeal was not filed within time. And we, humbly request you to kindly consider the appeal and dispose the appeal in the interest of justice. So you can separately enclose an affidavit in this regard. And one more mandatory enclosure that you have to file is the evidence or documents that you're relying upon. So this is a mandatory attachment that is required. So against each of these grounds, you'll also have to enclose a separate document which you are relying, or it could be a normal evidence also, which you're relying upon in order to fight your respective grounds of appeal. So you can just mention that this pertains to bank statements, or if it relates to any investment, you can just write it over there that it's a P&L statement. So a brief description about the document also can be written as a separate tab, and corresponding document also can be enclosed. And we also have an option to file additional evidence inside Form 35 itself. It may not be necessary to file at this stage. We may also file it at the stage of written submission. But I would suggest, if you have those documents ready, you may feel it is necessary for the appeal to be disposed in your case, in your favor. I would suggest you can enclose at Form 35 level itself, and you just have to mention the name of the document and the description of the document. And now you should also mention the ground number to which this particular document relates to. So if you just mention that much and enclose this particular document, that should be more than sufficient. And since it is as a part of Form 35 itself. I believe if you are enclosing any additional evidence in this particular tab, you may not have to enclose a separate request under Rule 46A to accept this particular evidence. This is a, something that the CIT itself is asking to file along with Form 35. A separate request or an application may not be filed. You can just file it as a normal document. Yes, now coming to statement of facts. How do you draft or how do you frame your statement of facts? What is statement of facts in the first place? As the name says, it is only a report or a statement that will depict all the facts of your case. Here, you have to make sure you follow some rules. Firstly, you have to maintain good chronology of events. Suppose there is a assessment proceeding that happened and you are challenging up the legal validity of an assessment proceeding. You have to properly mention all the dates and chronology after which you have explained all the brief introduction about the case. You just mentioned these are the dates on which I received so and so notice. As a matter of procedure, the AO was supposed to do this, but the AO has not done this. A very crisp and a brief, statement that's to be given, and you should not provide your rebuttal against what the AO has done. This is merely stating facts. As the name goes, you should merely state facts of the case. If you're filing grounds on facts, just mention what happened in your case, what did you submit, what did the AO opine, and what are the repercussions of this particular facts. If you're fighting on legal issues, then just mention what is the legal procedure and what the AO has done. Enough. You don't have to even explain as to how the AO has gone wrong, what should the AO should have done, or what are the judicial precedents that you're relying upon. You should not mention all this. Statement of facts should clearly state all the facts of the case. Wherever required, if the grounds relate to legal issues, just mention the facts of those legal issues. You don't have to mention in detail as to what are the wrongdoings of the AO in this particular report. So brief chronology of events and facts of the case should be mentioned. Do not submit your rebuttal or supporting for the grounds. This is not the time where you provide your rebuttal against the wrongdoings of the AO, for which we have a separate written submission after the hearing notice. There you can submit all your rebuttal points, but in statement of facts, clearly refrain from submitting any rebuttal points in the statement of facts. And do not include any judicial precedents for two reasons. One, this is merely statement of facts. You are not required to provide any judicial precedents. And there are high chances that a judicial precedent that you are relying today may become irrelevant at the time of written submission. So for these two reasons, please refrain from including any judicial precedents in the statement of facts. And most importantly, you should not include strong or harsh words in statement of facts. Because you are not providing your rebuttal, your facts should be very clear and straightforward. You should just state that AO has done ABC. You should not tell why AO shouldn't have done A, why AO should have done D or E or F. This is not the time to provide all that. So strongly, you don't have to use, a very strong or harsh vocabulary in your SOF, which is statement of facts. It should merely explain what has happened in the case. This document should clearly explain what has happened in the case to the CIT, because CIT, for the first time, this case is being exposed to a commissioner. Statement of facts is a good document to understand what has happened in the case. Thereafter, the CIT will start forming opinion. If you start giving your rebuttal points in the statement of facts itself, the CIT might get confused as to what is going on in the case. Let me first understand what has happened. So for that, you have to clearly explain what has happened in the case with brief facts of the case. Okay. And you have to include facts pertaining to all the additions. Suppose you have filed, 4 grounds on 4 additions. You should include facts on all those 4 matters or additions. Don't miss out on giving facts on any of those additions, because once you file statement of fact, the CIT will first treat statement of facts. And if one of the additions is not mentioned in statement of facts, it will be difficult for the CIT to analyze the written submission filed against the particular ground. So therefore, all the matters in dispute, all the additions made in the order, you give brief facts of that particular addition. Lastly, it should be concise, preferably not more than 2 to 3 pages, because it is merely giving facts of the case. I believe 2 3 pages also, wherever necessary, where there are more additions, you can give. But whatever statement of facts that we file in our office will not be more than 2 pages. It will be all more or less, it will be less than 2 pages itself, because we only give what has happened in the case. There is no need for us to give a detailed submission at this stage. Grounds of appeal is the most important document. I would say the most important document, because these are the grounds on which you are appealing before the Commission of Income Tax. So in this, you have to mention what are the grounds, what are the errors that have been done by AO, both on legal issues as well as factual issues. Grounds again should not include any judicial precedents. You should not mention any case laws in the grounds of appeal. It should again be crisp and concise. I would say ground should have, the content of the ground should be much, much lesser than the statement of facts. You should just tell the AO has done so and so, the AO has erred in so and so, the AO has failed to consider so and so. That's all. You don't have to mention the AO has verified this document, but in this document something else was mentioned. The AO should have considered that. The AO should have sent a 133.6. No, all this you should not mention. What is the addition? Against which what are you fighting? This is the only thing that you have to mention in the ground. The AO has erred in adding a sum of 1 lakh rupees as unexplained money under section 69A, which is contrary to the facts of the case. The AO has erred in calculating tax under section 144 ADA instead of 44 AD. The business activity of the assessee pertains to a business which is under 44 AD, but the AO has calculated under 44 ADA. So what you have to mention, you have to just mention AO has erred in incorrectly classifying the income as profession, while the AO is actually carrying on business. The tax, no, the taxing section or the presumptive tax section that belongs to the assessee is 44 AD. However, the AO has incorrectly considered 44 AD. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because this is a burning issue ongoing across the country. The NFSA is categorically incorrectly classifying income as profession and taxing it under 44 ADA merely because TDS is made under 194J. This is a very burning issue. I feel CITs will take a liberal view, or CITs will take at least a correct view in this. But AOs have been obnoxious, I would say, in considering 44 AD for a 44 ADA for a case where assessee is covered under 44 AD. So this is how you have to draft your grounds. It should be very crisp and concise, and it should be understandable. It should be extremely clear. In grounds, you should not include such statements which will create confusion to the CIT. The CIT should not get confused as to what is the relief that you are seeking. The CIT should clearly understand what is the mistake of the AO and what is that your what is the relief that you are seeking. In the present case that I mentioned, AO has made a mistake in classifying it as 44 ADA. I want to get it classified as 44 AD. This should be the ground. You should not create confusion here. You should not give lengthy submission to say the assessee is engaged in so and so profession as per that circular, as per this section, so and so. You should not give all that. That will create confusion in the minds of the CIT, as well as your grounds will not be appreciated at the initial stage itself. Consequential reliefs, like suppose you have you have an assessment order where there is an addition, and consequently, as a natural consequence, there is an interest that is levied under 234 ABC, or a penalty proceeding is being initiated along with the assessment order. So these consequential reliefs they're not required, because as long as the quantum addition sustains, the interest also will sustain. Once the addition is deleted, the interest also will be deleted, and the corresponding penalties also will be deleted. So consequential relief, CIT is not the right authority to grant you that, but as a matter of just including in the grounds, you can optionally add. But I would not suggest adding consequential reliefs in the grounds of appeal. But adding that will not make your grounds incorrect. So if you if you want, you can add them, but if you don't want, you may ignore them. And now I think in the proposed finance bill 2026, the government is proposing levy of penalty along with the assessment itself. So now there will not be two different proceedings. 274 itself seems to be redundant now going forward. So the AO himself will analyze the additions and suitably levy penalty along with the assessment order itself. There will not be any subsequent initiation of penalty proceedings. So consequential relief as of now, if required, you can add them. And also at the end of grounds of appeal, you can just add one ground to take the liberty to amend, modify, or add new grounds at the time of hearing. That would give you liberty, although mentioning that may not be a necessity, because we have the liberty to raise additional grounds when at the time of hearing, even without this particular ground. But as a matter of practice, you can just add one particular ground at the end. So this will be the flow of the entire CIT appeal structure. First, you file the appeal in Form 35. Once you file a Form 35, first day of the following month, you will receive some notification called enablement of communication window, wherein one window or a tunnel will be opened between SSC and NFAC to enable submissions and all the exchange of documents and information. Post which the CIT will issue a hearing notice. Against that hearing notice, you will provide your response. And if you have requested for a VC hearing, the CIT will also provide you a VC hearing. After hearing your VC submissions as well as the written submissions, the final order will be passed by the CIT. So at the time of hearing and VC notice, the most important document or the most important submission that you have to make before CIT is the written submission. So written submission is where you provide all your rebuttal points. You first mention what are the wrongdoings of the AO, both on legal issues and factual issues. You provide your grounds. You say that why the AO has done a mistake. You provide supporting documents. You provide supporting case laws, and you provide rebuttals. At the end, you seek the necessary relief from the CIT. So written submission is basically a detailed response against the hearing notice, wherein you provide response and documentary evidence against each of the grounds that you have raised in the appeal memorandum. Okay, while drafting this written submission, few things that you have to take care. Firstly, it should be a very detailed written submission. Of course, I am not saying that it should run in pages. Again, it should not exceed the necessary number of pages or necessary content that is required. But needless to mention that it has to be as detailed as possible and as detailed as it is required for the understanding of the CIT. And then you should provide your submission against all the grounds that are raised. If you are not providing any submission or any document against any of the grounds, then you can just make a mention that we are not pressing on this particular ground, and you can consider it on merits. You can mention that, or even if you have not mentioned that, that's fine. But you have to just mention against each of the submission, just mention against which ground of appeal this particular submission is being made. The written submission, just mention that ground number one is so and so ground that we have raised. Below that, you can provide your detailed submission analysis, explanation, everything. In the submission itself, you can mention annexure numbers as to which are the documents that you are referring to, which are the evidences that you are relying upon, and then you can go to the next ground, so on and so forth. Very important point, you have to number each document with proper annexures. Suppose you are enclosing 10 to 15 documents, and against each of the places where you're mentioning those documents, you just mention that a copy of bank statement for the subject AY is enclosed herewith for your kind consideration. The CIT will not be having so much patience to open the entire list of documents and to see which document is bank statement. So in order to avoid that, just make a reference to a specific connection. Say yeah, a copy of bank statement is enclosed and marked as annexure so and so. And if you mark every annexure in such way, the CIT will be more than happy to open the annexure numbers. And while you are enclosing also, just rename the file as annexure number so and so representing bank statement. Suppose it's annexure 3, just rename annexure 3 bank statement, annexure 4 form 16, annexure 5 maybe form 26 years, so on and so forth. So each document should be numbered properly and marked with proper annexures. And if you have a lot of annexures to give, along with the written submission, you can make a detailed paper book. Paper book was more relevant when the CIT submission was offline, but now that the submission is made online, the relevance of paper book may have reduced, but we still follow that practice because that is how the CITs are trained as well. So you prepare the index to the paper book, and again in that index you just mention written submission page number so and to so and so to so and so, and then below that you can just give a list of all the annexures that you are enclosing, against which you can mark them as annexure A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth. You can produce that in a very good manner, and CIT you're making their job easy so that they don't have to spend time on just searching the documents and then analyzing the case. So the first set will be ready before them. They can spend time on analyzing the case and giving the relief accordingly. Thirdly, you have to use neat and clean formatting. as long as possible, as far as possible, just maintain standardized formatting, for standardized indents, or maybe the font style, font size, so that the reading happens with a clean flow. And you have to maintain good chronology. You just jump into the additions and then go back to the assessment proceeding errors, and then again come back to some other addition. Should not do that. You have to maintain good chronology of facts, and in a detailed manner you have to explain why AO has gone wrong in each of these stages. And as far as possible, refer to judicial precedents in the footnotes. In the Word app itself, you can insert a footnote in the insert tab. And wherever possible, when you're referring to any case laws, you can use that insert footnote option, and the case number or the citation of that case law can be mentioned in the footnote. So whenever you're relying on some judgment, firstly rely on actual judgments, actual case laws. We have been seeing, of late, we've seen a lot of hallucination happening at AI end. So please verify if there is such case law, and if there is such case law, just mention the citation, so that CIT, when they are referring to those case laws, they can directly search with that citation, and then they can get the orders accordingly. And always seek VC hearing. This is the right given to you. Why not exercise it? So when you're filing your return submission itself, at the beginning, you can just tell, please find enclose the detailed return submission. Along with that, we also request you to give us an opportunity to present the case through VC hearing. If you just mention that one line, the CIT is duty bound to give VC hearing, and in the VC hearing, you can clearly explain your case along with the return submission. You can just make them go through the entire submission and explain the case in a better manner. If there is a right, you can maybe just use it. Lastly, it is needless to mention, but don't write stories. Please don't write stories. Don't beat around the bush. Telling something in direct speech, and then Dalzin is raising hand. Yes, you want to discuss something?
Uh, Hi Karthik, I just wanted to know about the last point you discussed. Always seek
Mhm.
a VC during written
Mhm.
submission part.
Mhm. Yes, yes.
Can you elaborate more on it? Because I'm not very much aware if
Hmm.
actually the VC is granted at the
Yes,
time of
yes,
CIT
yes,
appeals.
yes, yes. We have been getting a lot of VC hearing. Of course, it was not there maybe 1 year ago. Now the CITs are granting VC hearing. So we can make a mention in the submission that we need a VC hearing. Just 2 days before, I had a VC hearing before NFAC, which is Appeal Center. So they are granting now. Although
Oh,
we
all
can
right.
see,
Perfect, perfect.
yes, yeah. Although in the enactment it is not there now. In the law, if you see, there is no provision. To say that the VC hearing should be enabled once the request is received. But as a matter of practice, NFAC is providing. Although as a this experience, what I'm seeing is we have been receiving a lot of notices from additional or joint commissioners for certain cases where there's a threshold limit. So we are not getting VC hearing from those CITs or JCITs. But wherever the case is being handled by NFAC, in those cases, the VC opportunities are being granted easily. So that is one observation that I have made of late. But they are
Thank
giving,
you
they
so
are
much.
giving.
Thank you so much, Karthik, for highlighting this. I shall keep
Sure.
this in my mind.
Sure.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you. So I was saying that please don't beat around the bush, saying particular matter in direct speech, and then mainly just to increase the quantity of the submission, just telling it again in indirect speech. So that is something that you have to avoid. If you have already mentioned a point, just stop it over there. You don't have to mention it 2 3 times, because the CIT will anyways read the entire submission. So I believe mentioning it once should be sufficient. Lastly, and more importantly, I want to mention that you have to use AI only for maybe sharpening your language, or maybe polishing the way in which you submit the details, but not for drafting the entire submission. I've been seeing a lot of professionals, especially at assessment stage. They will just give one prompt to some chatbot to say, this is the facts of the case and the AO is asking for so and so, please draft one written submission for me. The chat GPT also, it's giving good responses, but it may not be legally right always. And it will more or less beat around the bush again, because you will mention that I need a written submission in maybe 5 6 pages, so that the AO is convinced. So that is something I have personally seen that many professionals are doing, but please avoid that. You first draft the entire submission. or maybe in order to polish your language, or maybe you feel that a particular submission can be made in a more professional way, you can maybe copy paste that in the chat bot and then get a more professional way of presenting your case. But you should not use AI tools to generate the entire submission itself. There are many firms who are working on how to generate good written submissions, but as of now, I think we have not seen any good tool as of now that can generate good written submissions equivalent to what we draft on a manual basis. So as of now, please avoid that. First draft and then polish your language, or maybe make your submission more professional using these tools. So important points that we have to discuss is, can I raise additional grounds at the time of hearing? Yes, of course, it is your right to raise additional grounds. And like I mentioned, you can also make a mention at the end of grounds of appeal to enable raising additional grounds. And we also have a lot of judicial precedents. We can raise any legal grounds at any stage of the proceeding that is pending. So I've seen the CIT is not challenging this raising of additional grounds in any of our cases. So I think if you have suppose, but you have to mention as to why this ground was not raised at the time of filing the appeal memorandum. You cannot just raise an additional ground and just mention that this is the additional ground I want to raise. You should also make a mention as to why this particular ground was not raised in the earlier stage. Suppose, just to give an example, if you are challenging a 147 proceeding, at the time of filing the appeal memorandum, you may not have the 151 approval, but subsequently you got the approval and then you realize that it is given without application of mind. You can just mention that at the time of filing the appeal memo, this document on which I am filing this additional ground was not available with me, and today I have the document, therefore I am filing this particular additional ground. So you have to just mention the reason why it was not raised before. I think the CITs are more than considerate to consider these additional grounds. Can I submit additional evidence? Again, the same logic. Rule 46A says if you have not submitted it before the AO, you make an additional claim before the CIT. Additional, not claim, but you can make reference to that particular document and submit it as a separate request. And we also mentioned that why this was not produced before the AO. The reason or the importance of this particular application is, once you file an additional evidence, the CIT will maybe send this evidence back to the AO and seek for a remand report, and then can arrive at a proper conclusion, so that the entire loop is closed, so that the procedure is not challenged in the second appeal. So in order to avoid that, just make a formal application to CIT saying these are the additional evidences that I'm relying on. These were not available, or this was due to oversight not produced before the AO. We would request you to kindly consider the same. And like I said, while filing Form 35 itself, if you have submitted these set of documents under the tab additional evidence, you may not have to produce a separate request letter. It is automatically understood by the CIT that this is an additional evidence to be reviewed afresh. Thirdly, most importantly, can I seek adjournment? Because from the last 5, 6 months, whatever hearing notices that we are getting from NFAC under from CIT, we are hardly getting 5 days time. If I get a notice or a hearing notice today, maybe by next Friday, the CIT is asking for a detailed written submission. If it's a different matter, that CIT will take 3, 4 years to dispose the matter. But if we don't file return submissions, the CIT is as fast as just, they'll just dispose the case within 2 days to say that you have not given any proper response, or you have not responded to the hearing notice. So wherever it is not possible for you to file the response, please seek adjournment. There are two things that you have to take care. One is, if the notice is being issued by NFAC, you can directly use the seek adjournment option in the proceedings. If it is received from any jurisdictional or any other additional or joint commissioner, you can maybe write a formal letter and enclose it in the submit response itself. They will consider the request and they may adjourn the matter. So after the return submission is filed, can I file some other submission? As long as the e-submission is still enabled by CIT, as long as the communication window is still open, you can you can file as many submissions as possible, but I would not recommend. So whatever submissions you are you want to make, it is better to file everything in the first return submission itself. It's a different matter that you got any evidence after filing return submission. You can just make a mention by filing another application to say that I have already filed return submission, but this is something that I have got post filing this return submission. So I request you to please consider this particular document. So CIT might consider, but we are not sure on that. So there are many cases where we have filed with additional documents after an earlier return submission was filed. In most of those cases, CIT has not considered the additional documents that we have filed. In cases where return submission itself was not filed earlier, and later on, if the submissions were filed along with these additional documents, the CIT has considered it. But in most cases where it was not filed and then we have submitted, we have seen that the CIT is not considering those documents. So as long as possible, just submit everything at once. Don't leave any document pending. Can I request be filed directly for setting aside the matter? So this is something that we have been seeing from 1st October 2024. There's an amendment in Finance Act 2024 enabling the CIT or giving the rights to CIT to set aside the matter where the assessment is on a best judgment basis. So this is of course because of huge inventory at the CIT level. So the government realized that there are many cases where there is the matters are not even discussed at the AO level. The orders are passed under 144 and under best judgment basis. So the CIT can now set aside the matter to the file of the AO. So now the question is, if I know that my case is covered under 144 and I have filed an appeal before CIT, can I make a mention in the return submission itself to say that I am not enclosing these submissions, but since this is the case of 144, please set aside the matter to the file of the AO. We have personally not done that in our office, and I would not recommend also, because you have filed the grounds of appeal, it is your duty to file return submission against these grounds. The CIT may consider your request, but that may not be professionally valid. So since you have raised the grounds, you can just file return submission, and at the end, maybe you can mention that since this is a 144 case, we are more than happy to at least, if the case is being set aside to AO, we may make all these necessary submissions before the AO, but don't make a direct mention without filing a return submission. That may not be professionally valid. So cases where you are handling CIT appeal from an international circle, like I mentioned, central circle, international circle are not yet under faceless scheme. So it is necessary for you to go and visit the CIT. Of course, it may not be necessary in simple cases, but more or less, if you go and visit the CIT's office and hear the matter personally, I think there are more chances that the case gets solved easily rather than just filing an online response. You can just go and meet the international circle CIT appeals and just submit all the written submissions over there. And also, as a matter of academic learning, just go through the appeals scheme that is there on the income tax portal. You can download the appeals scheme. It got amended twice. I think the latest one is from 2023. So you can just go through the e-appeal scheme to know the rules and the procedures that the NFSC has to follow. And you can also, align your submissions with such requirements. We'll just take 5 more minutes to discuss few other things. Rectification under 154. We'll just skip to a few important things. One is, if there is any mistake apparent on record, parallelly with CIT appeal, you may also file a rectification under 154, but don't wait till the disposal of 154 order or the disposal of 154 by the AO. Just file your CIT appeal. 154 is independent of CIT appeal, so first file the appeal and let the AO take his own time to dispose the rectification application. And penalties, there could be either quantum penalties which are dependent on the additions made in the order. Such appeal proceedings should be kept in abeyance. You can just make a small mention or a simple letter to the AO saying that these penalty proceedings should be kept in abeyance because the additions on which these penalty proceedings are dependent on are still pending with the CIT. So till the disposal of CIT order, you can keep request the AO to keep these proceedings in abeyance. But that may not work for technical penalties. Suppose you have not got your books audited, you have not filed your return, so penalties are being levied in 271A, 271B. So these are technical penalties. So in these cases, the AO may not keep the proceedings in abeyance, but there are chances where the entire assessment itself is challenged. Suppose 147 itself, 148 notice itself is issued beyond due date. and such legal issues are raised before CIT, and the entire proceeding itself is challenged, you can just make a mention that the entire proceeding itself is challenged, and any penalty proceedings emanating from such invalid proceedings should deem to be invalid. So therefore, you can just keep it in abeyance. It was mostly likely they will consider this as long as this ground is raised before CIT. So till the disposal of CIT appeal, they will keep these proceedings in abeyance. Otherwise, if the proceeding itself is not challenged, if it is purely on facts that you are contesting before CIT, technical penalties will not be kept in abeyance. So stay of demand should be filed immediately after or before CIT appeal. So few things that you have to take in, keep in mind. This is not a pre-deposit like how you have in GST. Lot of questions I get as a professional. People just come and ask me, sir, do we have to pay 20% pre-deposit and then file CIT appeal? The answer is no. In income tax, we don't have the concept of pre-deposit at all. The 20% demand payment that we pay is for getting stay for the balance 80%. CIT appeal is completely independent, and the stay of demand proceedings completely independent. And again, this 20% is not in the act, it is through an office memorandum. I have just mentioned the number. It was before it was 15%, now they have made it 20%, although in the latest budget they have proposed it to reduce this particular payment to 10% and grant stay for the balance 90%. We are yet to receive circulars, necessary circulars for that. So immediately after or before, I would suggest after filing the CIT appeal, just make an application to the AO for granting stay of demand. Of course, the AO will demand for payment of 20%, but you can also establish genuine financial hardship to say that even payment of 20% also will cause a lot of hardship on your financial needs, and this whole demand is incorrect. And in CIT appeal, the whole demand is required to be quashed, and therefore you can make an application to AO for granting stay without payment of this particular 20%. And if the AO rejects your application, you also have a option to file the petition before principal commissioner also. A lot of cases, what we have seen is principal commissioner will more often grant you stay, but with payment of certain percentage of the demand. And the stay of demand, what we have seen is in ex parte order, you can get it easily because the entire addition or the entire matter itself is not discussed. It is not discussed between two parties. It has not attained good finality. So therefore, the AO is a kind of duty bound to give stay when it is a ex parte order. We have, I think, a Madras High Court judgment as well to say that if it is an ex parte order, the AO is duty bound to give a stay of demand. And matters where it involves a high pitch assessment, suppose your income is mere 5-6 lakhs and the assessment is made at 5-6 crores or maybe 1.5 crores, it's highly a high pitch assessment. In such cases also, there are few circulars and case laws that support to say that stay of demand should be granted by the assessing officer. Right, a few other things, you have to review the order, and after you get the CIT order, after filing the written submission and appearing virtual hearing, the CIT will give you the final order. After you receive the final order, first thing you have to do is you have to review the order and to see whether whatever you have asked, the relief that you have sought, is granted or not. And if the CIT has not given you the sought after relief, then you can file further appeal before the Honorable ITAT within 2 months from the end of the date in which you have received the CIT order. And if the CIT has allowed your appeal, granted all the relief that you have asked for, or partly allowed your appeal, immediately you have to seek a OGE from the assessing officer, which is the order giving effect. Although this process should be automatic, but of late AOs will not look into all this, so it's better you file a manual application. And now I think we can also make an application in the e-filing portal itself. After filing it in the e-filing portal, you can download the acknowledgement, submit one copy to your jurisdictional officer to and ask him for passing the OGE. And if the matter is set aside, like I discussed, the 144 cases are almost being set aside to the files of the AO. So once that is done, the AO will issue a fresh assessment notice, and you have to coordinate with them for the completion of assessment. Here, there is one small understanding that we have to make. Suppose you have raised few legal grounds and along with the normal factual grounds on which the additions are made. The CIT cannot set aside the entire matter to the AO without adjudicating the legal issues. We have seen in a lot of cases, merely now the CIT, because the CIT has this particular right to set aside the matter, the CIT cannot exercise that right directly without taking care of the legal issues that are involved. So if the legal issues are disposed, and then if the CIT feels that the facts need consideration, he can anyway set aside the matter to the file of the AO. Right? I think that's all from my end. I know I've taken slightly more time than what was given to me. If we have any questions, we can discuss for 2-3 minutes and then we can proceed.
No worries, Karthik. It's just 5 minutes up. So yes, the platform is now open for questions. Anybody has any questions? Okay. Karthik, one thing I wanted to know that we all are aware
Mhm,
that from this April, 1st of April, the act is
mhm,
going to change, right?
mhm.
I mean, did you come across any of the things like any of these procedure which will go a drastic change or something like that under the new act,
No,
under the
no.
draft rules or
Under
anything?
appeals and assessment, I have not seen much of a change. Of course, I'm yet to look at it in detail. But most of these things are, the procedures and all those things are from the e-appeal scheme, the e-assessment schemes that were notified under the old act. The only thing that we have to see is how do we transition it to the new act. So we have to wait and see as to whether we will have a new set. E-assessment is anyways now sorted. Now we have a section 144B, which is translated to the new section. But appeals, I don't see much of a change as far as the legal this thing is concerned. We have to see once we get the new appeal scheme under the new act, or if we get a circular to say that the old appeal scheme itself will get continued, then maybe we may not have much of a change in the procedures per se.
Okay, got
We have
that.
one question. Do you think faceless appeal regime has improved objectivity or transparency in disposing appeals as compared to the past? To be honest, I have not been I've not been exposed to much of, non-faceless CIT appeals. From the time I started my career, it has always been the faceless regime that I'm operating in. So I may not be the right person to compare which was better, or if the old regime was better and the new one is, better or not. But I would say that it has created a lot of opportunities for professionals who are, very eager to draft good responses or make good submissions on legal issues and all those things. I feel, and in the schemes also, if you see in the assessment scheme as well, the AO cannot pass the order without providing rebuttal to all the points raised by the assessee. So if you see the assessment orders also, they have to make mention of what we have submitted, and the AO is duty bound to answer each of those questions or answer each of those issues that we have raised. So I feel as a policy, it has improved the objectivity or improved the entire way in which the assessments are going on. But whether it is better than what was there before, I may not be the right person, because all I've seen is the faceless regime in my career. And I believe that we have seen a lot of submissions from in our office also. We are getting good responses from AO. In the VCs also, the AOs are responding properly. Even at the CIT level, the AOs are giving good reliefs. And wherever possible, the CIT is verifying all the documents and giving good relief is what I can say. So that is what I have for this.
Okay, anybody else has any question? You can also put in the chat. Or
We
else
can
we'll just
anyways connect later as well. So if anybody wants to discuss something in detail or need my assistance, we can always exchange thoughts and ideas, which is the reason for, uh, behind all this workshops and all that.
right, agreed. So I guess we should then move to a formal vote of thanks. I would request CA Shweta to present our formal vote of thanks for today's session. Shweta, you're talking on mute.
I'm sorry. Yeah, good evening, everyone. This is Shweta Jain, presenting formal vote of thanks to our speaker, Karthik Shastri, On behalf of Visionary Women, it is my privilege to propose the vote of thanks for today's highly enriching session on 360-degree approach to handle CIT appeals. I would like to express our sincere gratitude to our speaker, Karthik Shastri, for presenting such a structured and practical roadmap for handling appellate proceedings before the CIT appeals. The session truly covered every stage of the appellate lifecycle, beginning with the statutory 30-day time limit for filing an appeal and clearly explaining the procedural aspects of filing Form 35 electronically, ensuring accuracy in data entry, and attaching mandatory documents. Your guidance on drafting a precise statement of facts and well structured ground of appeal was particularly valuable. Equally insightful was the discussion on filing a condonation of delay petition, explaining how to substantiate reasonable cause with supporting evidence. Also, return submissions covering both legal and factual issues, while highlighting a key point which most of us were unaware was requesting the VC to the CIT appeals. Your practical tips were really insightful. This session has not only enhanced our procedural understanding but has also sharpened our strategic thinking as professionals. Session like this elevate the quality of our professional practice as well. Once again, we thank you to our respected speaker and to everyone present here today. I would also like to extend our appreciation to the organizer CA Crispy Morakia for arranging this knowledge sharing platform and to all the participants for their active engagement. Thank you.
Thanks all for patient listening.
Karthik,
Of
just
course,
for
1 hour is too less for discussing CIT appeal. This was a
But
bird's eye
we
view of.
actually got a very good, insightful knowledge from you, Karthik.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really great hearing from you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Looking forward
and
to
being
connecting with you
somebody who
again.
has already worked with you, I can always vouch for his efficiencies.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, being your friend as well, who know you personally.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was truly interesting.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks to this platform for wonderful opportunity. We'll look forward to connecting.
Sure, Karthik.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay.